Hi everyone, welcome to Science Tutorial for You. My name is Candy, and in today's video I'm doing nervous system part 2. In this video I'm going to talk about synapses and reflex action. In this diagram you can see two neurons next to each other. The endings of the neurons are called branches. And if I expand this section, so what is synapse? Synapse is the gap between the two neurons. So this is synapse. And synapse is the gap between two neurons. Now the one end of a neuron is composed of capsule. This capsule contains chemicals called neurotransmitter. So the tiny dot that you see inside are neurotransmitter. So what's going to happen, this capsule is going to release the neurotransmitter or the chemicals into the synapse, and this chemicals is going to diffuse across the synapse to the other side of the neuron. And once the chemicals reach the other side of the neuron, it initiates electrical impulse. So let me summarize this again. So an electrical impulse arrives to the end of the neuron. This causes the capsule to release the chemicals called neurotransmitter. These chemicals diffuse across the synapse and initiate another electrical impulse on the other side of the neuron. The keywords when it comes to synapse is diffusion of chemicals across the synapse. The word diffusion of chemicals is important because that's how chemicals travels in the synapses. So in the neurons is electrical impulse, and in the synapse is diffusion of chemicals. Okay, let's get into reflexes. Okay, reflexes is an involuntary action, which means it happens without thinking. So the brain is not involved. No involvement of the brain. So which means the electrical impulse passes just through the spinal cord. So it is a quick process. And again, why it must be a quick process? And it must be a quick process to minimize injuries. So the whole function of a reflex is to minimize injuries. So what are the examples of reflexes? An example of reflexes would be taking a hand off from a hot object, blinking your eye when something comes closer. Sneezing is an example of reflexes. People getting smaller when there's too much light getting into your eye. It has to be done quickly so that the retina doesn't get damaged by bright light. So all these points are important. Involuntary action, the brain is not involved, the message just passes through the spinal cord. It is a quick process because it just passes through the spinal cord, and the whole purpose of reflex is to minimize injuries. Okay, now what is reflex arc? Reflex arc is the pathway taken by the electrical impulse to create reflexes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through the reflex arc using heat as an example. The heat will be the stimulus. Heat receptor and this heat receptor converts it into electrical impulse, which is carried by the sensory receptor. Sensory receptor transmits the electrical impulse to the spinal cord, and then from there it is taken by the motor neuron. Motor neuron sends the electrical impulse to the effector. In this case, it's going to be muscle, and then the effector is going to lead to response. The response in this case is going to be moving your hand off from the hot object. Effector can be either muscle or gland, but in this example it's going to be muscle because the muscle has to contract and the hand will be removed. The only one thing that I haven't mentioned is relay neuron. Relay neuron is found in the spinal cord. And the function of spinal cord is to connect the sensory neuron to the motor neuron. So relay neuron will come over here. So relay neuron connects the sensory neuron to the motor neuron and it's found in the spinal cord. Okay, the pathway from the stimulus to the response is called reflex arc, and it's the pathway taken by the electrical impulse to create the reflexes. Please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment in the video, and I'll see you in my next video.